What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here in the studio. Good to be with you guys today. What's going on, people?
Not bad.
Playing the stream, are you trying to add those
Getting
extra views in?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, that's how the grind works.
Yeah, but it is good to be back. How are you feeling to be back, Sim?
Well, they asked. Everyone was desperate for us to get back in the studio. When you're back in the studio, get back in here. So as soon as we saw those comments, we had to rush back.
Exactly.
We had to rush back into the studio. Now here we are. Yeah, haven't missed much, have we, since you've been away?
Not much at all.
Not many transfers, but there's been a couple of games since we've been away. 4 points out of 3 games, which is, look, maybe not the start we hoped for, but not the disaster just yet. Although, if you're reading social media, you probably wouldn't know that. But look, I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be back in the studio. Glad to be back with you guys in the chat. So I'm not happy there's international break. Could have come back with
we came back just in time for international break.
But I'm glad that everyone's happy we're back in the studio.
Yeah. We've got 100 people watching with us at the moment, so big up to each and every one of you. We've got a bit to get through today. We're going to go through the Europa League squad, and then we've got a bit of a Tottenham update and international talk as well. But I guess
Rico Bean says, entertain me, guys. I'm driving back from Newcastle.
Entertain you?
Well,
Are you not entertained? But look, let's start talking about this Europa League squad, because it's a squad that absolutely baffles me, to be honest. I just don't get it whatsoever, the selection that Ange has made. I guess we'll start off with going through the squad. So if we can bring up the graphic of the squad. So this is the 23-man squad. Obviously, we can only pick 23 men because we've only got 2 club-trained players, which is Brandon Austin and Alfie Whiteman, with Ollie Skip leaving the club. So there you have it on screen. It's Vicario, Forster, Austin, Whiteman, Dragoshin, Udogi, Romero, Porro, Davis, Van de Ven, Son Heung-min, Yves Bissouma, Madison, Gray, Bergvall, Decky, Brennan, Wilson, Odobert, Pape Matar, Rodrigo Bentancur, Richarlison, Timo Werner, and Dominic Solanke. And the surprise exclusion was Djed Spence and Sergio Reguilon, which everyone knew he wasn't going to be added to this squad.
Reguilon, huh?
It was madness.
Maybe one of Whiteman or Austin can play left back.
Yeah, maybe. But you're looking at it, right? And it's like Djed Spence, Ange has spoken highly of him in the build-up to the season, saying, he's done nothing wrong. He's done really well in pre-season, and we saw for our own eyes. Every time he's been on the pitch, he's impressed, to be honest. And I just don't get the thinking of picking 4 goalkeepers, and not only 4 goalkeepers as well. You've got Luka Gunter in the B list as well. So that's 5 keepers essentially that we've taken into Europe. Did Gunter not go on loan? No, he stayed.
Keeley went out on loan.
Keeley went out on loan. Yeah.
It's very frustrating. It's really frustrating from a point of view where, first of all, if Spence is going to be here and he's going to be part... What's going on here? Oh, that's TikTok. Apologies. If Spence is going to be here, then he's going to want minutes. He's going to want to prove that he's can be part of a squad and he can earn a place. He's come in because we believe he can fill in at right back and left back. Now, obviously in the Premier League, there's a lot of games, but I'm sure, Udogi and Porro, majority of those games, they're going to be starting as long as they're fit. So his chances were always going to come in the Cups and Europa League. That's when he was going to get his opportunity to impress. And I feel like we've basically just hampered his opportunities to get minutes in this team because we've got 4 keepers, 5 if you include Josh Keeley. And I understand...
Gunter.
If you include Gunter. I understand, Forster is the most experienced out of all the keepers we've got. You could probably say he's still on number 2. Maybe he's got a clause in his contract or something that he has to play the cup games. I don't know, and that's a speculation. But understand, Ange is going to want experience as your number 2 goalkeeper. But you've given Austin a new 5-year deal. You've kept Whiteman around. I know it's because of the homegrown numbers. I understand why they've been kept around. I'm under no illusion that we believe they're here because we believe they're going to be future goalkeepers for Tottenham in the first team. But you've given them, especially Austin, a 5-year deal. He's played in pre-season and looked decent. Why not allow him just to be the number 2 goalkeeper in Europa League and give Djed Spence that opportunity to impress? Because Djed Spence is going to be needed. Udogi can't play every game. Porro can't play every game. We're going to need the backup fullbacks to fill in certain situations. And now it means, basically, with Spence out, if we want to rotate, it still means we can't rotate everyone. One of those back four are going to have to play. And it also means that Djed Spence, it's going to hamper his ability to show what he can do. It's going to hamper his development as well, because as much as he's a player who's played a lot of first-team football, you've got to remember, for Tottenham, he hasn't played a lot of first-team football, so he's still got to learn that role. He's still got to develop. He's still going to need minutes in the team to kind of learn the way Spurs play, especially under Ange Postecoglou, and get fit into the team. And it'd be much better if he can do that in Europa League than doing it in Premier League. And he's a player who can play right back and left back. We only have Udogie at the moment. I know Davis obviously is also a left back, but under Ange he's predominantly been a centre back. We don't really see him as a left back, I think, anymore. So for me, it's very frustrating that Ange has taken the decision that instead of leaving out Forster and allowing Austin to be number 2 and Whiteman number 3, he's put Forster in and completely left Djed Spence out, when now we only have 6 defenders in this Europa League squad, and you're taking away Gents' chances to impress. It's almost as if like we've given Spence the opportunity of a second life at Tottenham, and then we've cut off an arm or cut off one of his legs, and like made it even harder for him to actually get opportunities. And that's the most frustrating thing. If you're going to have him here, then allow him. Look, who's more likely to be the future of Tottenham? Is it Spence or Forster? It's Spence.
Fraser Forster, of course, so is the future of Spurs.
Come on, like, we got to be realistic here. Why, like, is Forster so important to the team that he has to be involved in the Europa League squad? I guess Ange's argument will be he's a important, experienced member of the team. He's our number 2. If Vicario gets injured here, or he might have been playing a lot of Europa League games, and Austin and Whiteman aren't ready, so we need Forster to be available if an injury comes, and that's more valuable than having Djed Spence available. But for me, I just disagree with that, to be honest.
Yeah, if that's the statement and the sentiment Ange is going for, I think he's got it completely wrong. Completely wrong. How can you take 4 goalkeepers into Europe? There's the gulf in quality between Fraser Forster and Brandon Austin isn't that big, in my opinion. I don't think Fraser Forster has ever come in and looked like a keeper that we want to rely on. Brandon Austin, he's coming in pre-season, he's looked okay. In certain games, he's looked, a bit out of his depth in certain games as well. But I don't think there's a massive gulf in quality between the 2 goalkeepers, in my opinion. I
mean, I don't know if there's enough to suggest that. Forster's an experienced Premier League goalkeeper. He's been there for many years. He's
experience
played in Champions League.
is all he's got on his side, though. Like, in terms of goalkeeping ability, particularly with playing out the back and how we want to play, there's nothing to suggest that Fraser Forster can come in and do a decent job.
There's nothing to suggest Austin's even a Premier League quality keeper.
Yeah, that's also true, but that's what I'm saying. There's nothing to suggest for either of them. But
no, Forster, he has a wealth of experience behind him. We know what he can do.
He hasn't played a game for Spurs in over a year. Like,
apart from that Carabao Cup game.
It's like there's no need. There is literally no need to take 4 goalkeepers into Europe if you've got Vicario there. Just play Vicario if he's fit. If he's not fit, I'm sure we can deal with a game or 2 in the Europa League with Brandon Austin. Mm-hmm. There is literally no need whatsoever to take out Djed Spence in a position where we're lacking at the best of times. Never mind if Djed Spence is there or not. Like, we need him. We completely need him, and
just to take the weight off some of the other players.
Exactly, and now Destiny is pretty much going to have to play every single game, Premier League and Europa League, and what Djed Spence will get the Carabao Cup.
Well, Ali Gold was making the argument that potentially with Spence being left out now, and Reguilon, by the way, who's still here, and he's also a left back who we could use. As much as whatever you think about Reguilon, is he that bad that he can't play a few Europa League games? He probably
Once
could.
Ange has said he's not in his plans, he's not in his plans.
No, I get that. I'm just saying there's a left back there who we know could probably do a job for a few Europa League games, but that's by the by. Ali Gold was making the argument that with Spence and Reguilon now being both left out, if that means Davis becomes our backup left back for Europa League, maybe that opens the door for Dorrington to come back in potentially, and he can come in as our 4th choice centre back in Europa League and potentially partner Dragoshin. And maybe he's a player who's obviously people have forgotten about because he's been injured, but there was a lot of talk about him last year at youth level, but before those injuries, and maybe he could get some opportunities now with Spence being out, and that leaves a space for him potentially.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, but also at Dorrington, like, he's hardly even played much football for the under-21s in the last year. He's had major injury problems. I can't say because I'm not on the training pitch. I haven't seen them week in, week out. Maybe that's the feeling Ange wants to go for. And if he wants to go for that, then that's positive in terms of giving Dorrington a kind of pathway into the first team. But Davis ain't good enough at left back, especially in the way that Ange wants to play his left backs in the inverted role. It's just not his game. So I would much prefer to see Djed Spence there. There's been good talk about him from the management. There's been good talk about him from the fan base. Everyone's been excited to see Djed Spence being reintegrated this season. He seems to be happy and working really hard in training is what we're led to believe. So what kind of message does that send to him? It sends him a really bad message saying, you've been working hard, you've been contributing in pre-season, everyone's like the look of you. And then out of the Europa League squad, just like that, in favour of Fraser Forster, it doesn't make sense.
On the flip side, does that mean Spence will get more opportunities potentially in the Premier League? And is that a good thing if he does?
I mean, it's positive in terms of... Yeah, it is positive, but he needs those minutes in the Europa League to prove that he's good enough for the Premier League. He's not going to come into the Premier League with no injuries. I think it relies on injuries for him to get starts in the Premier League. I don't think he's going to be starting ahead of Pedro Porro or Destiny Udogie anytime soon.
No, I agree with that. I'm just saying if Udogie or Porro have to play lots of Europa League games, well, if not just because of injuries, just fatigue reasons, if we're playing many games, will that naturally leave some opportunities here and there for Spence in the Premier League, maybe more than he would have gotten if he was potentially playing more Europa League games? Potentially,
but if we were going to look at it that way, I would actually prefer to leave a Porro or an Udogie out instead of a Djed Spence and give Djed Spence the complete trust and minutes in the Europa League.
Well, like Chelsea have done.
Exactly. I think Chelsea have actually done pretty good by leaving Cole Palmer out the Conference League squad. Keeps him completely fresh for the Premier League. They know they can win the majority of these Conference League games without him.
Would they have done that if it was Europa League, though?
Don't know. Maybe it depends on who they got in the Europa League. But I think when you look at the teams that we play, we do have a couple of hard games in there. But if we can't win those games without a Pedro Porro, without a Destiny Udogie, we've got some problems.
I agree. Especially Karabag, Elfsborg, all these teams who should be winning those comfortably. Regardless of what team we put out there, and should be able to put out a team, who of rotation level team that can beat these teams. But I'm just deeply frustrated for Spence. I know a lot of people I'm seeing, I put a message on Twitter saying I'm disappointed that Spence has been left out in favour of Forster, and a lot of people saying, well, you just don't understand the rules. We need homegrown players and all this kind of stuff. But the fact of the matter is, we made a choice between Forster and Spence. We could have left out Forster if we really wanted to. We didn't. We've decided to keep him on. It'll be even more frustrating if Forster doesn't even play. And when that space could have easily gone to Spence, who definitely would have gotten minutes if he was in the team. And now it's going to make his time at Tottenham even harder to get into the team. And I wonder, with the player who we know, I wouldn't say has a bad attitude, but we know he's had attitude problems in the past. It'll be interesting to see how he reacts to this news, and if he gets frustrated with it, or if he just decides to knuckle down and say, look, I'm not in the squad, but I just have to work harder to get into the Premier League team, because it's going to be a lot harder to get minutes in the Premier League than it would have been if he's in the Europa League team. So I reckon he must have assumed. Maybe Ange did have a conversation when he started to keep him, that he told him before he's going to be left out, but I reckon he thought, I'm going to be here for Europa League games. There's going to be minutes now we're in Europe for me to impress and show what I'm about. They've decided to keep me on. Ange's talking about me publicly, saying how hard I've worked and how impressed he's been. And now they've basically cut, at least for the first half of the season, it's safe to say they've probably cut his minutes by probably over 50% just with this decision.
Maybe more. I'll be really disappointed for him if he doesn't start that Coventry game. That Coventry game has got to be, that's the only game that you can safely say in the first half of the season that he's going to start. Literally, he has to start that Coventry game. And if he doesn't, where does that tell you in where he is in Ange's plans? He's going to be nowhere in Ange's plans.
But you just know, Spurs fans, if he starts that Coventry game, we lose. People go, oh, you should be starting your best players. It's a cup competition. How can you? What are you doing? Playing people like Spence, Porro has to come in. You can't be taking these games lightly. You know what Tottenham fans are like.
But that's what you have a squad for, is to maneuver around these moments, around these situations. And if you play the same players every single game, week in, week out, 2 games a week now, they're going to get burnt out. We've seen it with so many players and so many different clubs in the past. we've got 2 games a week now for the foreseeable future for the next 6 weeks or something crazy like that. You've got all the Europa League starting to come in now after the international break. You've got the Carabao Cup or the EFL, whatever it's called now, starting to come up with Coventry away, which you got to expect us to go, or want us to go deep in that tournament. So there are a lot of games coming up. Mm-hmm. And that's the main reason why I'm deeply disappointed that Spence isn't in the Europa League squad, because in my opinion, with the group that we have, we need to be giving a lot of our players a rest on these Thursday night games and get them ready and fit and firing for the Premier League, because we can win those games with the second string squad, or a mix and match of the first string and the second string. And now we're basically asking Pedro Porro, well, maybe not Pedro, but Destiny for sure, to be starting 2 games a week, pretty much.
Yeah, unless it means Davis comes in at left back and we play one of the other centre backs. And we rotate between Romero and Van de Ven, who starts in the Europa League, which I guess is not beyond the realm of possibility. You have Gray, one of Romero, Van de Ven, Davis at left back, with Drakusin. And from that point of view, is it that much of a risk of burnout if you do it like that? Maybe not.
Look, there are maybe a few ways you can work around it, but I just feel so sorry for Djed. So sorry for him, because he's done everything right since coming back here in the summer. And maybe something's happened behind the scenes that we don't know about. But from what we know and what Ange has spoken about in the press, it's only been positive. Mm-hmm. It's literally only been positive. And he's spoken about players in negative lights. He's spoken about Lo Celso and Reguilon, saying he's not in their plans and, to that nature. But everything about Spence has been positive. So it just bemuses me. I just don't understand why he's gone this route.
Yeah.
I think it's a wrong decision.
I completely agree. But he's gone with Forster. And that's that. No, we have to move on from it. But Spence is going to have to find another way to get into this team. Yeah,
and it's going to be starting at Coventry. And if he has a really good game against Coventry, everyone's going to be like, oh, why didn't you pick him for the Europa League squad and all this kind of stuff, and they're right, and they're well in their rights to do that. And Ange will need to be able to take the criticism if we do get a big injury. Like if Destiny gets injured now, then what? Davis at left back, Spence at left back, and then Davis in the cups in the Europa League.
That's what it's going to have to be. If Destiny got injured, we'll be screwed anyway.
Yeah, true.
It's because Forster's a Celtic legend, that's why.
Is that why? Yeah, he wanted him to play that game at Ibrox just to stuff it to him.
Exactly. I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist bringing Forster back to the Ibrox just for that one moment. It had to be in the squad.
Yeah, but look, that is the situation about the Europa League squad. Let me know your reaction in the comment section below. Let's get into the Tottenham update first and foremost. We're going to talk about Alfie Devine. He has officially joined Belgian Pro League side Westerlo on loan for the remainder of the season, which was confirmed yesterday by Tottenham. Good loan move for him. He gets to play hopefully week in, week out in a fairly strong league, get to link up with Luka Vuskovic. They can form a bit of a bond before he officially moves to Tottenham. So, yeah, I think it's a good loan move for him.
Yeah, and he becomes the main guy. He takes a number 10 slot, number 10 shirt as well. So that's really good. And yes, I would prefer him to be going to a championship team, which was reportedly on deadline day. We were looking to do that. Unfortunately, I think a move to Birmingham didn't fail to materialise. So he's stuck at Tottenham. But I do think it's a positive thing. It's a league. He's in a top division. There are some very good teams in there in the Belgian league. Like you got the likes of Anderlecht, you got Standard Liège. These are good teams, and he will be coming up against some good teams, some good players. Probably are going up against Vertonghen at some point, I'd assume, and Toby as well, also still there, Antwerp. So. Belgian, look, as much as it's not a top league, there's still definitely some good teams in the Belgian league, and he will be tested. It's not going to be easy for him, but it'll be interesting to see how he performs wearing that number 10 shirt, being the main man at a team. Can he rise above it? Can he be the best player in that team? Can he, absolutely kill it in that league? Be very interested to see how he gets on, and I'm very excited to be keeping tabs on Alfie Devine, despite the fact it would be nice if it was also a championship move or a lower Premier League move and you can test him at that level, but it's still a step up and it's still a big level for him. So I'm very interested to see how he gets on.
Be interesting to see what the quality difference is from the Belgian Pro League to the Championship.
Yeah, I think at the top end of it, of the Belgian Pro League, it's probably better, I would say. You know, I do think teams like Anderlecht and Standard Liège and you know, a few of these teams are probably Premier League quality, but when you get to, like, you know, the mid to lower echelons of the Belgian league, is that as good as the Championship? I don't know.
I'm not even sure if Standard Liège are that good anymore. I think Club Brugge, obviously
Club Brugge
the best
as well,
team
yeah,
there.
Bruges.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. I think it'll be a good loan move for him. You don't really see that many young English talent going over to the Belgian league. You see them going out to Germany, you see them going out to the Netherlands, but you don't really see them going out to Belgium too often. So it is a interesting one. But I would have preferred him to go to the Championship or a lower end Premier League team, or maybe the Netherlands or to Germany. But this is what they've chosen for him. It looks like we're forming a bit of a feeder club thing with this Westerlo sending Luka Vuskovic there and now Devine. But it'll be good for them to play together as well.
Exactly, learn more about each other's game and everything like that. So I think it's positive. Have to wait and see what happens with how the season goes. I'm not sure if there was a break clause in January or anything like that got announced?
There was rumours of that. I don't know if it was actually put in or not. I think surely if they were smart about it, they would have put a break clause in for January.
And that's what I would hope, but I haven't seen anything confirmed about that. So be a shame if there isn't, and if he does really kill it and he's there for the whole year. But look, if he can gain that confidence, just you know, be there playing regular football, it's really going to benefit him. I really believe that, and be interesting to see what position he plays, because you know. He said it when he was on loan at Plymouth. He likes to play more attacking. He was actually playing as part of a front three in pre-season. He was playing in the middle three, sometimes as an 8, sometimes as a 10, sometimes as a 6. So, be interesting to see where he fits in at Westerlo. Given the number 10 shirt, so maybe is that an indication? We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think it probably is, to be honest. Number 10, getting the number 10 shirt at any club is significant. So hopefully he starts week in, week out and shows what he's really about, because I thought he was really impressive in the pre-season for Tottenham. Next up, Alejo Veliz has been nominated as Under-23 Player of the Month for La Liga, alongside Pablo Barrios, Crescentos Uche, Lamine Yamal and Raul Moro. So Alejo Veliz making waves in La Liga.
It's amazing what one goal can do. But look, from what I gather, he's actually been fairly impressive in his first few games for Espanyol, and that's really really exciting for him. Obviously, he scored a really nice goal, last-minute winner in the last game. If you see, he takes it really well inside the box, quick thinking, sharp movement, and a good finish into the roof of the net. I think he started all their games so far, and by and large, I've been looking at some of the stats. I haven't seen all his performances, but from the stats-wise, he seems to be having some decent performances and got his goal. So maybe that's a sign of things to come. And maybe, you know, I don't think you get nominated for Player of the Month if you haven't been playing well, regardless of the goal. So he must be really starting to make a bit of waves there at Espanyol, hopefully.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at his... So he's played 4 games, 1 goal and 2 yellow cards. Classic Alejo.
Go on, Alejo.
Yeah, I like Alejo Veliz. I don't understand the bad rap that he does get from certain people, and I think there's definitely a player in there, and I like what he's about, his mentality-wise. I like that he's just very aggressive on the pitch. He's a really good presser, and I feel like he's, like, in terms of profile-wise, a really good number 9 for Ange, in Ange's system.
Yeah, because he's actually quite light on his feet, despite being quite a physical presence. He's quite tall, but he also seems fairly quick. He seems to have sharp movement as well. So I think, obviously, he's still very young, 20 years of age or 21 years of age now. So I think last year clearly was a disaster for him in terms of his development and the amount of time he got on the football pitch. So I think it will be interesting to see where he's at the end of this year, how many goals he's scored for Espanyol, how he has developed. But I like the look of him. I think whenever he's come on for Tottenham, despite getting limited minutes, he always tries to make an impact and tries to get involved in the play and doesn't seem to be anonymous. He likes to put himself about, and I like that about him. Very passionate, clearly very emotional. And if he can harness that in a positive way, that will only benefit him and make him give an edge over certain players. So really exciting start to life at Espanyol for him after what was a disaster loan at Sevilla in La Liga. And I'm really interested to see how he kicks on from here and if he can really go on a bit of a run.
Yep. Next up, we're going to be talking about the goal of the month nominees in the Premier League for August. Yves Bissouma is up for his goal against Everton, Mateo Kovacic for his goal against Chelsea, Jarrod Bowen against Palace, Cole Palmer against Wolves, Luis Diaz against Brentford, Bellegarde against Forest, Liam Delap against Fulham, and Sugawara against Brentford for Southampton.
Bissouma's got a decent shot, I think.
You reckon?
Why not?
I didn't see Liam Delap's goal, but I heard that was brilliant.
That was a great goal. Although it was a great goal, don't get me wrong. He took it from the halfway line, beat a player, and then smashed it into the top corner from 25 yards. But Leonard does get a massive hand to it. Probably should have saved it. Who he disappointed. You know, Bissouma's goal, I believe. I read it's the goal with the longest passing sequence so far.
Oh, really? Is that right?
In the Premier League.
Wow.
So I think it was a passing sequence of over 20 passes.
So you got the passing sequence in the build-up, and then you've also got the rocket shot as well.
Exactly. So that's what, and you got that little bit of brilliance from Decky as well in the box. So I think he's got a decent shot of winning it. It might be the best in terms of like all of the elements. He's got team, bit of individual brilliance, and a long-range goal as well. I think he's got it all. Kovacic, I think Sanchez has to save that.
Yeah, 100%.
I think the Diaz goal was good as a bit of a counter attack, and it's a good finish. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's better than Bissouma's.
Is Cole Palmer against Wolves the lob?
Yes, that's a good goal as well. Is a good goal, and it was a quick thinking from Sanchez, long boot upfield. Jackson just knocks it into Palmer, and Palmer sees Sarr out of position and lobs him. It is a good goal. I'll give him that. I don't know if it's as good as Bissouma's, but it's a good goal. I don't know. I think Bowen's goal was nice against Palace. I just think Bissouma's might actually be, in terms of everything, it might actually be the best goal.
All right, get Bissouma that award, guys. Come on. Next up, we're going to be talking about Eberechi Eze once again. Not strictly Tottenham related, but Sammy Mockbell says that reported long-term Tottenham target Eberechi Eze's £68 million transfer release clause will reactivate again next summer. It's made up of an initial £60 million plus a further £8 million in add-ons, which was the same as this summer just gone. Do you believe that Spurs could potentially go back in for Eze next summer?
I think it's unlikely, but I think this was a big opportunity to do it. But then again, if the clause is there, I would never rule it out. I'm just trying to think what the state of the squad might look like in a year's time. Obviously, Werner might not be here. We have to see if Solomon's going to come back or not. We have to see how good of a season Maddison's had.
But is Eze considered... I don't think he'll be considered a left winger. It'll be more considered like if he's a signing, he'll be a midfield signing, not a winger signing, in my opinion.
Probably. I mean, that's where I think his best work comes in. I think he's best when he's cutting inside and in those central areas. I do think he can be an effective winger. I just don't think that's where his best work comes from. And I think
especially in the Ange system,
you see how he plays for Glasgow. They play with wing backs and tucked inside forwards. And yes, you could probably argue under I think Hodgson or Vieira, he was actually genuinely playing as like a number 10. So they had a winger to the side of him, and he was playing in the pocket there in that number 10 position, or even in a 3-4-3, similar position to where Maddison plays now. He was kind of playing like that. But under Glasner, he's a bit wider than he was, but he's still very much in those pockets of spaces, playing in the central areas. So is that a player that we desperately need right now? Obviously, Maddison and Decky are doing those roles and doing it great. You could definitely say Eze is probably better than either or both of those players. You can definitely make the case for that. Is he an essential player right now? Probably not, which I made that argument in the summer. But he's a player who definitely ups the quality of the squad, and he's a player who I would love to bring to Tottenham, and I'm a massive fan of his. So if we can find a place for him in the squad, I think it'd be a brilliant signing. And for that price, you could do a lot worse. I think you look at the price a lot of other players going for, that's not a terrible price. But again, considering it's the release clause, 60 million up front for him, is it a player that's completely necessary? You can make the argument either way. So I don't know if Tottenham stump up the cash. Probably not, but I'd love to see it.
I don't see us stumping up the cash in the way that Crystal Palace want us to stump up the cash. I mean, I can see us spending a 68 million on Eze, but I can't see us spending 60 million up front and, the rest 8 million in add-ons. So as much as I'd love Eze at the club, I just can't see it happening. But it was a bit of a strange interview with the Palace chairman. Did you see it?
Strange. No, what did he say?
He was talking about Eze, and he was saying how surprised he was that there was such a lack of interest in Eberechi Eze in the summer. And it almost felt like through that interview he was kind of like
disappointed.
A bit disappointed that he didn't get the money this summer.
Which is strange considering they sold Olise, they sold Anderson as well. You know, they got good money for their players, and you would think a team like Palace, who they appointed Glasner in the last year, which is quite an ambitious appointment for a team like Palace after he replaced Hodgson. They went on such a great run. You would have thought they would want to really kick on from that, and it seems as though instead of looking to improve on that, maybe he got money, dollar signs in his eyes instead, which is, if I'm a Palace fan, quite disappointing, especially as well because they've very heavily considered selling Guehi as well. So he could have easily gone out the door if Newcastle met the asking price, which luckily for Palace they didn't, or Palace fans I should say. So there is, look, it's peculiar, but then again, that is how they run. You know, clubs that size who you know, have to compete for PSR rules and have to find creative ways of competing. It's what they've always done, Palace. If there's good offers, they'll sell and reinvest, and they'll buy cheaper, and then they'll look to sell on those players in the future. Yeah,
but you also look at the example of Wilfried Zaha. I know they sold him originally to Man United, but once he was their proper talisman, I mean, they did kind of resist the temptation to sell him year on year until very recently.
They probably just never got the offer they wanted.
Maybe, yeah. And last but not least, let's talk about international Spurs. England under-19s faced Italy under-19s. It finished 2-2. Mikey Moore and Leo Black were on the bench. Mikey Moore coming on for the last half an hour. Leo Black coming on for the last 15 minutes for his debut, and he got the equaliser in the last minute. So big up to Leo Black. Korea played Palestine in a 0-0 draw. Son Heung-min playing 90 minutes, and I believe there was a bit of a blunder there from Sonny.
Yeah, he in the 90th minute rounded the keeper, open goal, similar to the angle he had against Everton when he tackled Pickford. But unfortunately, on this occasion,
was
he
it
hit
completely open goal?
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow.
And he hit the post, outside of the post, got it wrong, and ended up drawing 0-0. And I'm sure, look, unfortunately we didn't watch the game, but if it was 0-0 and, you know, you're relying on that moment, he probably was a frustrating day for him, I assume.
Yeah, absolutely. Azerbaijan played Sweden. It finished 3-1 to Sweden on the day. Deki getting 90 minutes, Bergvall coming on for the final 20 minutes, and Dejan Kulusevski captaining his country, I believe for the first time as well, so it must have been a massive moment for him. The goals coming from 2 from Isaac and 2 from Gyökeres, 2 assists from Gyökeres as well.
Which is mad when you think about it, because, you know, he's only 24, Deki, and it shows the standing he must have in the squad that they've given him the captain's armband. There's probably, I don't know who's in their team at the moment, but I actually do think they have quite a young team at the moment, but they did have like quite experienced players.
Olof Mellberg.
Not that experienced, but like, you know, Forsberg, people like him. I don't know if he's still playing.
So I'll tell you the team. It's Johansson in goal, Walkvist, Douglas, Hien, Augustusson at the back, Svanberg, Ayari in midfield, Kulusevski, Isaac, Alanga and Gyökeres. So I think Kulusevski is the real big standout choice there.
You know, Isaac, he's also a big player, was big standing in that team. You know, so anyway, I think it's really interesting that they gave him the captain's armband. Really happy for him. He's always been a very good speaker. You've seen when he's spoken in interviews, or, you know, when you've seen him do interviews and he did that interview with who was at the Players Tribune, which was brilliant. He's always been a very good speaker, always speaks very well. So but they must really respect him if they believe he's captain material at such a young age. So really impressive stuff from Deki, and hopefully he takes that leadership material into Spurs.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last game was early hours of this morning. Argentina beat Chile by 3-0. Yet another clean sheet for Cuti Romero and Argentina.
He's nuts for Argentina. He literally barely loses a game, barely concedes a goal. It's incredible, and I'm sure he put in another top display, knowing him.
So I'm just trying to look at, so they conceded 1 goal against Ecuador in literally the last minute. So apart from that, they conceded 1 goal to Guatemala back in June. They literally hardly ever concede a goal, Argentina. It's actually mad.
Yeah, and Romero's usually like man of the match as well in most of these games. So, look, hopefully he can take that form into Tottenham, which I guess we're always hoping for that. I do think he's had, by and large, played well for Spurs, but look, those lapses in concentration have hurt us against Leicester and Newcastle. There's no getting away from that. So a lot of that's why the accusations always come. Oh, he always plays better for Argentina than Spurs and all that stuff. So look, if he wants to, I guess we play a different way to Argentina, so it's different. It's harder to compare. It's like comparing apples and oranges, but you don't see him having these kind of lapses of concentration for Argentina. Yeah.
I don't know if you saw Alvarez's goal in that game as well. Absolute brilliant goal. But they did start a back three in this game with Otamendi, Martinez and Romero in the centre of the back three. So that was interesting. And tonight is another round of international fixtures. You've got Wales playing Turkey tonight in the Nations League. Ben Davies and Brendan Johnson. Radu Dragusin and Romania are away to Kosovo. Manos Solomon is for Israel, away to Belgium. Italy, with Udoki and Vicario in the squad, play France tonight, which is going to be a good game. Bissouma called up for Mali in the African Nations qualifier against Mozambique. Pape Matar and Senegal in an AFCON qualifier against Burkina Faso. Archie Gray got called up to the under-21s, England under-21s, who play Northern Ireland tonight. Odebear got called up to the France under-21s, who play Slovenia tonight. Josh Keeley for the Irish under-21s that play Turkey. Luca Gunter, Ashley Phillips and Dane Scarlett all playing for the England under-20s elite team that play Turkey tonight. And the next fixtures come around on Sunday with Sweden against Estonia. And then Monday, Tuesday is the last couple of days of internationals, which we'll cover in the early part of next week. So, yeah, busy week of internationals this week in anticipation for the North London derby.
Everyone holding their breath.
Literally, that's all it is right now. Because right now, as it stands, if Van der Ven and Solanke can make the games, which it looks like they probably will, we've got a clean bill of health going into North London derby.
I don't say that. Don't speak too soon, bloody hell.
But that is your Tottenham update for today, guys. I want to let you know that we've got this new system where, super chats and comments can be shown live on screen. If you want to get in your super chats, we can show them live on screen and discuss them for you, or we can just pick out some random comments. Let me show you how it can be shown on screen, or stream. I said stream. This guy's killer rabbit of Karabag, whatever that says he said the Palace chairman wants out, and this is why he's
I see he wants to sell the club.
He wants to sell the club.
That's why he wants to get rid of Eze. Maybe. I don't know. Is that a rumour?
That's what the killer says.
John Max is pretty sure it's the homegrown rules that are keeping players out.
It's not, though. It's the homegrown rule that has made us pick 23-man squad.
Exactly. The homegrown rules means that Whiteman and Austin have to be in, but it doesn't mean that Spence can't be in instead of Forster.
Exactly.
Jeff Banks says, Spence named in the PL team, ? I thought we had to select less to meet the quota. Disappointing, as I'm sure Djed could play backup as a centre-back as well. He is in the Premier League. He's in the Premier League team. He's in the Premier League squad. Don't worry about that. It's just for Europe. But that's where he's going to get majority of his minutes. So that's probably the most frustrating thing.
Why is Barnaby spreading fake news on his channel?
I don't know.
What is this fake news that you speak about?
Going to specifics, I don't really know if it's fake what he said.
What did he say?
I don't know.
What he said.
I don't know. I haven't seen.
Okay. Well, if you can let us know some more details about that. We do not know about any fake news being spread.
Let's see. Yoon Crip says Cole is injured. I don't think so. I just think he's been left out to lighten the load. I don't think he's injured.
No, he's not injured. I mean, he did pull out the England squad, didn't he?
Yeah, I think again.
So
to rest him, I think.
Oh, is that why England?
So.
Why did England have a favour of resting him?
It wasn't England. He pulled out.
He pulled out.
Yeah, I believe so.
He pulled out just because he wanted rest.
Him and Watkins both pulled out.
Watkins as well. Watkins has started the season with looking a bit injured, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He hasn't looked fully fit. But Cole Palmer's been brilliant.
Think they're clever because they've both been to the Euros. And they just need to make sure. Look. You look at the moment who started the freshest. I know Palmer's been good, but look at the teams at the moment who started the freshest. Who's looking really good early seasons. Players who haven't been in the Euros. You look at the players who have been in the Euros. Bellingham has picked up an injury. Foden hasn't played much or at all. Watkins looks leggy. Palmer's looked good, but a lot of players.
Saka's had a fairly good start to the season.
Saka's been mixed, I would say, so far.
Hasn't he got like a goal contribution every game so far?
He's been decent, I guess. Yes, he was good against Wolves. What was the other game they played? Villa, I thought he was
Villa,
poor.
Brighton.
He did get a goal contribution, but he didn't. It wasn't exactly like it was like it bounced off him and fell to Havertz. I wouldn't say it was like it was good, but I don't think he had a great game in that one. He's looked good. I'm not shitting on him, but I'm just saying I've seen him play better.
Rice has been poor.
Rice has been poor. He's another one. So a lot of these players who've been at the Euros are struggling at the moment. They need this break, I feel. So I think that's what you're seeing at the moment. That's why, and also you're seeing a lot of big conversation about workload on players and stuff like that. You got to remember, apparently Palmer pulled out because they're looking ahead at the Club World Cup as well, because the Club World Cup's been expanded. So
is that starting this summer? Next summer?
The summer coming up.
I don't understand how they're going to manoeuvre all these competitions. You've increased the size of the European competition now, Europa League, Conference League, and Champions League, and now they're asking to play another whole tournament. Like, are these players who are going to be playing in the World Club Championship, whatever it's called, they're going to get any break whatsoever? Like, when's the break going to come?
They're not going to. That's the whole point.
It's ridiculous.
Palmer's not going to get a break. They're saying if Foden is involved in every squad he could potentially be in this season, then he could play, including the Club World Cup, he could potentially play up to 83 games.
So are they not playing in the normal Club World Cup then?
There's no normal Club World Cup.
No, that's gone. Year was the last year.
I believe so. There's a new Club World Cup, which is literally like a World Cup.
A World Cup, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a month tournament, like with all the teams from around the world. I don't know how you qualify for it though, because like Dortmund are in it. I don't really know why.
Yeah, there are specific circumstances.
It's all about coefficient.
There's specific.
But like Liverpool aren't in it.
No.
But Chelsea are in it because they won the Champions League back in 2021.
Yeah, apparently the last 5 or 6 Champions League winners are in it.
Yeah, but why are Dortmund in it? What have they won?
I don't know what they've won.
Nothing. They haven't won anything.
I don't know why they're in it. I don't know. I don't know how. Maybe it's like the top few teams in specific countries, but if your space is taken up by a Champions League winner, I think it decreases the amount from the league. I don't know, something along those lines.
Yeah, that's so. Yeah, I know from England it's just City and Chelsea, I believe.
Is that it? Just City and Chelsea?
No Liverpool, no Arsenal, no Man United.
Because City and Chelsea are the only English teams that have won the Champions League.
Mm-hmm. Well, Liverpool won it in 2019.
Chelsea won it before that.
No, they won it after.
After that, yeah. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Neville Morgan says Cole out of the Chelsea Europa squad. So what's the fuss if Spencer's being left out? It's so two completely different circumstances. They're leaving him out because they've got an abundance of attacking talent, and they're taking they're lining the load out of their best player. Spence is the player who would be playing in these games, unlike Cole, who would be rested in these games. So we need Spence, not like and Cole. Chelsea don't need Cole for their bloody Conference League where they're playing, teams to finish 8th in the Swedish league.
We were coming into this season talking about the transfer window being like we're light in that position with Spence. Mm-hmm. Now they've taken him away. It's just ridiculous, to be honest.
What's this from Michelania? Ange has a plan for Spence. Everyone knows it. It's just a matter of output. We'll be seeing Coys for this season. Will surprise many. Finishing 3rd. Come on, you Spurs.
But what is the plan? What is the plan then for Spence? If you're leaving him out the Europa League squad, what is the plan?
Fifth Elemento says Timo before Spence face palm. Is there a case for you to say Spence should be ahead of Timo in the Europa squad?
I mean, I don't think it's a case of Spence against Timo.
I'm just saying, if it was.
If I had to choose one of Spence or Timo to be in the squad, I would pick Spence.
You'd pick Spence over Timo?
Yeah, I would. Because I think we've got enough players that can cover on the wings in the Europa League. We don't have enough players that can cover at left back. I'd prefer to give Mikey more the minutes over Timo Werner.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't completely disagree.
You don't completely agree either.
No, I kind of I still think it's more important to have better attacking players, even if it's Europa League. I still think that it's much better for us if we're going to get through the group. The way we play, it's more important we have players who are making the difference in the final third than having players defensively. When we know, for example, I know he's not part of the squad anymore, but like Skip came in and filled in left back and did a good job. But you can't get Skip and put him in left wing and do a job. You know what I mean? It's not possible. But you can get players to do the job defensively for us. So that's why I think it's much easier to find a solution for someone to fill in for at left back than it is and leaving Spencer than it is to find someone to fill in for Timo Werner. I think.
Yeah, but Ange has clearly said that Lancashire and Moore have stuck around because he believes in their qualities and he believes that they can make an impact this season and they will get minutes.
Doesn't mean starting.
No, not starting, but we've got other players as well. We've got Sonny there. We've got
exactly. We want to give Sonny a rest. This is the point. We want to manage him. So we need to rest him, and we need to rest him in Europa League.
You're telling me Mikey Moore can't start against the likes of Elfsborg and Karabag and these kind of teams?
I don't know. Maybe, but I do know that Werner definitely can, and will definitely win the game. Probably if Werner starts.
But anyway, like, as much as this conversation is about Werner and Spence, I would have picked both of them anyway.
Yeah, of course.
So I think the whole thing to take Forster with us is just ridiculous.
Vanin says Van de Ven left wing before Timo.
Say that again?
Van de Ven left wing before Timo.
100%.
Huzen says, I get the feeling Ange hasn't quite made up his mind about Spence just yet and maybe considering letting him go in January. Lately, I feel Ange hasn't been entirely transparent in his conferences. What
does he mean by that, not entirely transparent? I mean, he was very transparent about Lo Celso and Reguilon, that's for sure. And in Djed Spence, maybe he hasn't been fully transparent with Djed Spence because he's only been saying good words about him. I don't know. I just can't put my finger on it. Has there been a bit of a message from up top saying, you know, Spence, we're not getting the money that we want for Spence. We have to keep him around. Is there some sort of that situation going on with Djed? I don't know, but
I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like I don't think Ange is the kind of guy to just say publicly that he's been impressed with someone that he hasn't been impressed with. You know, we didn't get the money that we wanted for Reguilon, and he's still here, but he hasn't, you know, said anything good about him.
Yeah.
So I feel like if Spence is here and getting opportunity, well, she was in pre-season, there must be a reason for that. But yeah, why he's been left out? Is it just a case of he just really feels like we need Forster? It's really important to have Forster.
But I can't see that being realistic or in a reality why we'd really need Fraser Forster. Like why?
Because he really believes Austin and Whiteman are not at the level. He must believe that.
So why not just play Vicario? Like,
yeah, but if he gets injured.
Yeah, if he gets injured, fair enough. But surely, like, we can deal with a game or two without Vicario and have Brandon Austin.
Well, if it's a long-term injury.
Like,
you need your backup keeper.
You're telling me Fraser Forster is that much better than Brandon Austin? Is he that much better at 37 years of age?
Well, first of all, keepers go for a long time. We know Forster is capable of playing in the Premier League. We've seen him play at a decent level for Southampton.
It's a long time now.
Yeah, but keepers can still perform when they, you know, you look at Brad Friedel. He was playing up until he was 40 at a really good level. I'm not saying he's Brad Friedel level Forster, but I'm just saying keepers can. Doesn't matter, even though, you know, he hasn't played that much for a year.
When Fraser Forster was playing in goal for us, all we were saying was hit it low and hard to either one of his sides and it's a goal because he can't get down in time.
Yeah.
That's what we were saying. So, like, how is that, like, good enough to be our backup?
But, yeah, we were saying that, but also he did have some good games, I guess. But look, we've kept him on. I do wonder if part of it is, you know, in his contract it says, are we playing these games or whatever when he signed, because you've got to remember when we signed him he was number one at Southampton, so I do wonder if that was like we had to convince him to come here to be our number two and doing that, we had to give him some minutes. I'm trying to remember when he was under Conte, if he played all the cup games or not.
I think he did.
Or was it Lloris? Or was Forster in goal for all the cup games?
But last season he didn't.
We only had one cup game.
That's true. Did he play that game against Fulham?
Yeah.
Oh, he did play.
Yeah, he was terrible in the penalties.
What about the Man City game?
Actually, no, Vicario played the Man City game. Vicario played the Man City game.
It's very perplexing, man. There's nothing to say. He's 36. There's nothing to say to me that Fraser Forster is going to make a massive difference by being added to this squad.
Well, Ange must really believe that. He must do. Otherwise, why would he not pick him? Why would he sacrifice Spence for it? He must really believe that Forster has to be in.
Mm.
He must really believe that we need him as our number 2.
And you look, the year before he joined us, played 19 games at Southampton. The year before that, only played 8 games.
Mm.
So it's not like he's been like a season starter at Southampton. 19 games in the season, 8 games before that.
Mm. Let's see. Porro and Spence going to be exhausted. Well, I don't think Spence will, but maybe Porro will be. Let's see what other people are saying. And Anurag said, I think Spence was the first on the sheet for the Europa League. So I would say there is something fishy with keeping Spence out. Something outside the field issue. Maybe. I mean, who knows? It's possible. It's possible. But look, if that was the case, he came on against Leicester. I think he came on against Everton as well, I think, for a bit.
He's come on in 2 games this season, I think.
So Leicester, don't think he came in against Newcastle, but he came on against Leicester and Everton.
Yeah, 18 minutes against Everton and then the last minute against Leicester.
So I think if something happened, I don't think he'd be getting those games. But then again, it might have happened after those games.
But then if he's getting these minutes in the Premier League so early, then why not pick him for the Europa League? Just nothing makes sense with this. It's just very strange. Unless something has happened behind the scenes that we don't know about his attitude or whatever.
Aidan Arnfinson says, would love to see Cooper second choice keeper, Gunter third choice, Patrick and Michael Coyote over Forster, Whiteman, Austin, Reglon, Davis and Spence. So you want 5 keepers in there, do you?
The reality is we've got 5 keepers with Luca Gunter in the B list. That is the reality. We've got 5 keepers going into the Europa League and 1 natural left back.
Mm.
Like, even if you think like Forster is with what you're saying in terms of he's got a big standing in the squad. You saw Ben Davis and Son Heung-min both call him their best friend in that video that they did last week. He's got experience. Even if you think all those are valid arguments, it's still the argument of having not enough cover at left back still trumps those, in my opinion.
Unless he believes Davis can do it, I don't know. Yeah, and he's going to give Dorrington a chance. But still, I'd still rather have Spence there because Spence has a higher ceiling than all these players. Yeah. And we've kept him around because we've been impressed. And we signed him for 20 million 2 years ago because we really saw a lot of potential in him and he was doing really good stuff for Forest. So I was really excited for him to get opportunities. Look, he might still get them in the Premier League, but unfortunately he won't be getting them in the Europa League, and that could really hamper his ability to get minutes.
Yeah.
There's also a bit, I guess we should talk about, look, we've been away for what's it called, for the last 2 games. So I guess we should maybe talk about the start of the season while we're back in the studio here. It's a good opportunity to summarise the first 3 games because 4 points from 9. A lot of that, I'm seeing a lot of debate online. Have Spurs improved? Are they progressing under Ange? Are they not progressing under Ange? In terms of the summer, has Ange been backed? Has he not been backed? Is there a growing sentiment, do you feel, as well, about Ange at the moment at Tottenham? Is there a growing sentiment of discontent with Ange at Tottenham, or is that still very much a minority of fans in terms of the fan base? So from what I see at the moment, first 3 games of the season, obviously it's frustrating that we haven't got the wins that we should have gotten, especially out from Leicester game, and it's at least a point out of that Newcastle game, probably even 3. But what I am definitely seeing is much more really good control from games, ability to pen teams in. I really believe the chances we're conceding are not as much as they were at the back end of last season as well. So I do think we're controlling games more, we're conceding less chances as well. We haven't seen Solanke yet properly integrated into the team because he's only played 1 game. So I think this team's got a lot more to go as well. So I think there are definitely good signs for Tottenham despite the results in the first 3 games. But, you know, is there another argument to say, can we get away from those results at the moment? Because when you look at the results since November, I believe I read it was like 29 games played, like 13 losses. And at what point does that become unacceptable?
Yeah, no, there's definitely a good case for that. And you're looking at the level of team that we're beating as well. Villa aside, in the last 6 months, who have we actually beaten? It's all been teams right at the bottom of the league. That's the reality. So if you're looking at it from that sense, yeah, it's poor. But the way I look at it is that Spurs are still bang in the middle of a rebuild, as much as no one wants to hear that right now. This is Ange's 2nd season. When he took over at the club at the beginning of last season, the club was in a terrible mess, absolutely terrible mess, on the back of Conte, on the back of Mourinho, Nuno, not knowing the direction the club want to go in. We bring in a manager that plays the football that we all want to see. The squad is pretty much unrecognisable right now to what the squad that Ange Postecoglou picked up when he first joined here. So you've got to realise that things don't happen overnight. I think you're seeing massive improvements in the way that we're playing our football. Yes, we're showing massive defensive frailties in the way that we're conceding our goals. But I do see in the second half of last season, in the last 6 months or whatever it was, we weren't playing good football. We weren't winning games. And we were finding it hard to break down teams and score goals. I'm looking at these first 3 games and I'm seeing a massive improvement in the way we're playing our game. I'm seeing massive improvement in the way that we're being able to control games. I'm seeing massive improvements in our pressing as well. I think all these signs are going on the upward trajectory. What's not going in the upward trajectory is our defensive play and how it's so easy for teams to, you know, get big chances against us, and all our hard-working games are going out the window at the moment in terms of, you know, we're laying the foundations, but we can't finish off the job. That's what I'm seeing right now. And I do see progression with this in this team. I do believe Ange Postecoglou is the manager to take us forward. And I do think that we're going to iron out these situations. I just think it's going to take a lot longer than maybe people envisaged. And you look at other managers from around, maybe a Jurgen Klopp, maybe a Mikel Arteta, maybe a Pep Guardiola to a certain extent. It takes managers time to get the exact team that they want, playing the exact way that they want. And Ange Postecoglou has flipped this club in a complete 180. We've gone from one of the least pressing, most defensive teams in the league to going the complete other way around, where we're having the most touches in the opposition penalty area. So as much as, yeah, I want to see us win every game from now and go compete for the title and go win trophies straight away. Of course I want to see that, but I just feel like Spurs fans need to be a bit more realistic to where we're at right now. And we're not, the rebuild is not complete yet, and I don't think it will be complete until next summer. So maybe when he's talking about going on and fighting for titles and stuff, maybe that can come under Ange Postecoglou. I feel it can come under Ange, but I don't think it's going to come this season. So I'm seeing progressing in the way that we're playing, and I think it will keep progressing throughout the season. And I feel like we will sort out the defensive structure, and I feel we will sort out with us this situation where we're not finishing our chances at the moment. And once Solanke comes in and starts playing consistently, I think you'll see that a lot quicker. But again, we need to realise where we're at as a football club right now.
After the Newcastle game, the iNews wrote an article titled "Tottenham are showing no signs of improvement under Ange Postecoglou," saying familiar failings are costing Spurs and fans are starting to wonder whether Ange ball is the answer or is it the problem. When he says Spurs fans are starting to wonder this, obviously, you know, you can never really garner too much in terms of what like the match-going fans and this fan base as a whole really believe on a certain matter, because on social media you might get, you know, a certain point of view, and then you go to the stadium and, you know, it might be completely different. But in terms of the support Ange Postecoglou has from the fan base when it comes to everyone really believing he is the guy to, you know, bring glory back to Spurs, where do you think the fan base kind of stands on that? Do you believe the majority is still with Ange? No, obviously that no one's wanting. I don't think the majority want Ange out. I think that's clear for everyone to see. It's not toxic or anything. But
I don't think anyone wants Ange out.
No,
Right
I think there are some people who do, but I think it's a real small minority, like tiny a bit. But in terms of that real enthusiasm that there was, you know, at the beginning of last season when he first joined, you know, we had that pre-season, their first 10 games, like that has. Do you reckon that's dissipated a bit?
Yeah, of course it has. It's a results-driven business. That's the reality of the situation that we're in. But I don't think fans are getting disgruntled with Ange. I still think you can see a clear plan. First 3 games of this season, yeah, we might have not got the results that we wanted, but we're definitely seeing the performances that we want to see in terms of controlling games, pressing from the front, winning the ball high out the pitch. There are issues there. You can't get away from it. There are issues there. But there are always going to be issues when you change so many players, when you change the philosophy from a flip 180. You know, there are so many contributing factors right now. And yeah, I think we're all kind of blinded by the first 10 games of last season. Everyone goes back to the first 10 games last season where we were unbeaten, where we were winning games consistently. But I felt like that was maybe just a bit of a honeymoon period for Spurs. Then the injuries come in and the suspensions come in, and we never really recovered from it. Now it's a bit of a fresh start going into this new season. And yeah, we've had a few poor results, but the performances have been there. And I think as long as the performances are there, that's something to cling on to with Ange Postecoglou. And I feel like we will be progressing this season. And like I said, I fully believe in him. I'm a massive believer. And I think he'll get us there.
Yeah, I am too, and I'm still really excited about the season ahead. I know the results have been a bit frustrating first 3 games, but it could have just as easily been 3 wins as it was 4 points. And I don't think all of it was down to Ange, albeit, you know, he does definitely have to take responsibility for how we defend sometimes. And, you know, the second goal against, both goals against Newcastle and the goal against Leicester are really sloppy defending. And it's really disappointing to see us concede those types of goals, especially when all those goals came in such moments when we're on top of the opposition. We got their foot on the neck, and we just don't kill them off. And it's really frustrating to watch. And it almost causes anxiety in a way when you're watching that and we keep missing these chances, and you just start to get that feeling like this can turn on at any moment because we keep missing and we haven't put this game to bed. And, you know, and then the worst comes and we do tend to concede these goals. But, you know, for example, I watch Man City play, and look, don't get me wrong, they're a much better defensive side than we are. But you see that goal that they conceded against Ipswich, very sloppy goal, quite simple goal that Ipswich scored. They put them 1-0 up, but they don't let it affect them. You know, they went and win the game 4-1. They put their chances away. In fact, they were 3-1 up within 15 minutes, I think, of conceding that goal, weren't they? So, you know, I would love if Tottenham reacted to the goal we conceded against Leicester in a similar fashion. That's what we got to do. But my point being is, I think even the top teams, I think we focus a lot, and even I do, on us conceding these sloppy goals and silly goals because it's very frustrating that we keep doing it in our best moments. But when you take the overall picture of the games and you take the overall picture of how we play, I think, yes, we will concede these sloppy goals, but if we keep restricting the opposition to the amount of chances we are restricting to, which is, you know, by and large very few, even though they are good quality chances, I think we will win a lot of football games playing this way. And I think if we can just rely on ourselves putting the chances away and rely on our keep creating the level of chances we are, get Solanke back in the team, I really do believe that we all got a recipe for what could be a really successful season. I'm looking at all the metrics from the first 3 games, and we perform very well and consistently well in all the metrics. And I know you could say something similar last season, especially early on, but I think it's no coincidence that we're performing well on all these metrics, touches in the box. You know, most possession of any team in Europe's top 5 leagues. You know, chances created, I think we're second in the league. Shots on target, all these different kind of metrics, we're performing very, very highly, which is a consequence of how Ange set up his team. The metric for defensively is we haven't conceded. I think we're one of the lowest for shots conceded, but when it comes to XG, we're kind of mid-table, which suggests, you know, the level of chance we're conceding is very high, despite the fact that we're conceding not as many chances as a lot of the other teams. So we're obviously, that is something we have to work on, we have to fix. But as long as we're limiting the opposition to that, and we're still creating the same level of chances we are, I think that is going to, over the long term, that will stand us in good stead. As much as people look at it and think, oh, this is suicide, this is so risky, while we're leaving our defence all exposed, while we're doing this, while we're doing that. I think once results start coming, which I really do believe they will, people start to change their tune on that. Yeah. And you look at ever since you know, Pep's started winning leagues and then he's coming to the league. This very high risk, high reward kind of football has what's been successful. Now I know Arsenal last year have been quite pragmatic, and Real Madrid have gotten some joy under Ancelotti, quite a bit of joy under Ancelotti over the past few years. But I still believe the general trend in modern football, you know, in the last, especially in the Premier League over the last 10 years or so, has been highly offensive, high risk, high reward football. That has been what's generally been and also giving it time. That, whilst also building a project and giving that football kind of time, has been has been successful for clubs sort of in looking to compete in the higher echelons. So I do believe we give this football time, we allow Postecoglou even more time to breathe. You got to remember, as much as he's only a year into his project. Look at managers like Klopp and Arteta; they needed that time to implement that system and really make it click. It didn't just happen in a year. I'm not saying this form can carry, you know, the form we've had since November can carry on for another year and he'll be okay, because he won't be. But as long as we're showing signs of progression, which I do believe on the pitch we are, I think there's no need to panic. And I think as well, I also think that, you know, the criticism for the board and the criticism for the hierarchy seeps into all this negativity surrounding our results at the moment. And whenever we get a bad result, it's another excuse, more excuses for people to bash the hierarchy and bash the boardroom, which is why it feeds into that negativity as well when we get bad results. But I'm generally still very excited. As much as I do believe maybe we could have done more in the window, I look at the squad, I look at the depth of the squad, I look at both 11s now, and I do think we got a good squad. And yes, it's not perfect. There are definitely improvements that can be had. But I definitely think this is a squad that going forward can give a lot of teams a lot of trouble. And I'm very excited to see what we can do this season under Ange. I really am.
Yeah, I agree. And the most frustrating thing about the defensive problems is, though, you look at our defence with Romero, Van der Ven, Udogie and Porro. And out of those 4 players, you don't want to swap any of those players out. They're all 4 like in their own individual rights, like quality players, aren't they? Mm-hmm. And I genuinely believe if you swap our 4 defenders out for Arsenal's 4 defenders in Arsenal's system, you know, in the way they're playing right now, they'll have the similar, if not the same results, if maybe even better. Like, I think individually those players stack up very well against those Arsenal back 4. And because of the system that they implement and because of how long that they've been together, it obviously looks very different in their system as our system. So I don't think that the quality is that much different between Arsenal defenders and our defenders. And look at the difference in terms of results and chances created against both clubs. But I think the main thing here that Spurs need to do to progress this season is to find that killer instinct. I think as soon as we find that killer instinct, as soon as we find that formula, and that has to come with Don Solanke in the 9, and it will come with Don Solanke in the 9, you'll start seeing a lot more positive results come through. And you look at it, where do Spurs fans expect us to be right now? Like, what is the expectation right now from Spurs fans? Where do they think we should be?
I agree, but whenever you say we need patience, there's always the retort is we've been patient for 25 years.
I get that, but, you know, a new manager has come in with pretty much a bunch of new players as well. Like, we all call for this painful rebuild. We all call for it. We all call for an attacking manager to come in. We have all of that now. We're nearly at the end of the process of this rebuild, in my opinion. One more summer, I think, to fill those few more gaps in the squad, and I think we'll be there. So where do Spurs fans think we should be right now? Where? Like, answer the question, because I think Spurs fans should assume that we should be in a top 4 challenge and going for a trophy, and I think that's where we're at.
That's the steps. You can't just jump. I know some teams do, but it's very rare to jump from where we were in 8th to all of a sudden, start challenging for big things. When since Ange come in, it takes more than a year. It took a lot of the best managers more than a year. So obviously, I never came into the season thinking we were going to challenge for a title. Obviously, you can all dream about something special happening, but I never thought we would challenge for a title. And I just think the aim should be, getting close to those top 3, get into that top 4, consolidate your place in the top 4, get some separation between you and maybe the chasing pack as well, and try and go big for that Europa League or go for a trophy. And if we can get top 3 in a trophy, top 4, top 3 in a trophy, then that'll be a really, really good season. That shows major progression. Also, there'll be vindication for what Ange is trying to do as well. It shows progression, but also shows we could be onto a really good thing, a winning thing, if that's the case. But a lot of Spurs fans are running out of patience, and with every drop point, they see our chances of doing something special slipping away. And I know it's only 3 games in, but a lot of fans, are running out of patience and are always saying, we should have gone bigger. We should have signed this player. We should have signed that player. Why did we sign Odegaard? Why did we sign Gray? We only signed teenagers, and we should be, progressing a lot quicker and all this kind of stuff. But, this is what Ange claims that, that's what his vision is, and that's what he's trying to do: implement a younger team, lower the average age, and get moldable players that will listen to what he wants to do and listen to his methods. You could also make a very good argument when you're comparing last year's squad to this year. Is you look at the second 11 now last year compared to this season, and I think it's much more of a second 11, a second string that could do what Ange wants compared to last season. Whereas last season, you had Emerson, Højbjerg coming in. We didn't even have Dragusin for half the season. You had maybe Solomon in the front line. Lo Celso was injured, sometimes didn't play, and he was playing in the centre sometimes. And now you have people like Bergvall coming in. You have Decky playing in the centre. You have Archie Gray coming in at right back, or Spence as well. You've got Dragusin playing defensive mid. You've got Richarlison's our backup striker rather than first choice striker. You've got Odegaard, who can now come in rather than who was our backup right winger last year? Can't remember now. But
Kulusevski and Brennan.
Yeah, I guess Kulusevski. You got Odegaard coming in off the right instead of Decky, who now plays central. So it's a completely different kind of second string. It's second string compared to last season, and I think that doesn't get. I think people just look at it and think, oh, who will we sign? Blah blah blah. But actually, if you look at the squad now in terms of what our second string looks like compared to last season, it's completely different. It's a completely different second string.
Yeah.
But Bergvall, people like that coming in, and that was one of the biggest problems of last season. It wasn't even necessarily our first 11, as much as it wasn't perfect. When our first 11 was fit, I think in general performances were pretty good. I think the biggest problem I know our first 11 kind of had a downturn at the end of last season, but I think our first 11 in general was actually quite good. The biggest problem was our squad. And I think the squad is much more refined to fit Ange now than it was last season.
Yeah, it's true. But there's also a case to say, like, we're signing way too many teenagers at the moment, and we're not signing enough players that can come in and make the difference right now. And you've got Bergvall, you've got Gray, you've got Odegaard, all these players coming in, and great, I like the look of all of them. But when you're looking to make an impact right now, can you do that with, a bunch of teenagers, essentially? Like, Solanke is probably the only player that has come in that has, dramatically improved the first 11. And that is the reality.
It's reality, but I would argue we've got a pretty good first 11. I'm not saying it's perfect, and obviously improvements could all be had, but if you can add competition and you add players who up the competitive level, if Maddison's not playing well, maybe you can actually take him out rather than just solely relying on him. Same with people like Basuma. Now that you got Bentancur there, he was also, by the way, looking like a lot sharper than he was last season. I think the first 11, when on the face of it, is actually pretty good, and I think last season they did show when they're all on top form that first 11's good. And the big problem was getting players off the bench or as a squad who can fill in, especially when we've got injuries or when we need to make substitutions, that can do the role that Ange needs from a technical standpoint. And now I think we definitely have that to a much better extent than we did last season. I think that's going to really stand us in good stead. Yes, we all want improvements to the first team, but we do have a good first team when they're all on form. And I think Ange has got to back himself to get them all on, to get them playing as well as they were at their best last season, and that's part of his job. And if he can't do that, then he's going to have. We've got players who can come in now who are going to be of a better standard of the players coming in last season. But also, it's on Ange to get the best out of these players, and if he can do that, it's going to stand us in good stead. And we didn't necessarily need major changes to the first 11. I think we needed major changes to the squad, and I think we actually have that. We do. I think people will take that stand and say Solanke's the only improvement to the first 11, and then other fans will take that to think, okay, so the squad hasn't changed that much. But it has. There's actually been major changes to the squad. It's just the first 11, there's only been one major change, which is fair. But to the squad-wise, it is a very different squad to the one we had last season.
Yeah, it's true. It is true. I would just have liked to have seen, players that are not just teenagers come in, apart from Solanke. I just feel like it might be a bit too many to make the real desired impact that we actually need this season, albeit I do think these three players that we've brought in are of a good caliber. And
they're not coming in till start.
Yeah.
So they don't need to come in and be ready. They're coming in. We're going to ease them in. They're going to play Europa League games as well. But they're also shown already in pre-season and early in the Premier League that they can definitely perform at this level to a decent standard already. Not to say that they're definitely ready to be stars and starters consistently, but they're definitely ready to make a contribution to this team. And we haven't brought them in necessarily obviously they're coming in to compete and they're going to try and win their place, but I don't think that there's pressure on them to be starting week in, week out. And yes, you can say, there's too many teenagers, but all these teenagers are going to be part of the future of this team, and that's what we're building towards, a team that can be together for a long time, which is actually quite an exciting prospect in itself. And they're not coming in. They're coming in to be part of the squad. They're not coming in to be regular stars straight away. Yes, if you've got Gray, Bergvall, and Odebear, these teenagers coming in straight into the first team and they're starting straight away, it might be too many. But I think as part of a squad, I think this could be a smart move.
But then there are question marks about players that are in the first team right now, like you mentioned, Bissouma, Maddison, Brennan Johnson. There are question marks about these players. Bissouma, by the back end of last season, I was probably ready to sell him, to be honest. I don't think he's performed at the required ability on a consistent basis since joining Spurs. There's a narrative about James Maddison where he starts every season well and then gets injured, goes off the boil, and you don't see him again for the rest of the season, which we did see last season. Brennan Johnson, there's a big discussion about him. Is he good enough for this system? Is he good enough in terms of to give us what we want from that right wing spot, one-on-one dribbler? So there are question marks about plenty of players that we've got in this first 11 at the moment. And I don't know if any of these players are ever going to produce for us on a proper, consistent basis, week in, week out, over the course of a whole season.
Yeah, we'll never know. I mean, we will know as the season progresses, and we'll get to know. But as well, we don't know. We know that as players, these are all very, very high-level players when they're at the top of their game. And
that's the question. That's the thing, Madison, when they're at the top of their game.
There's a lot of Madison was known as much as you could say there's a narrative about him only playing well half a season. He was still a very good player at Leicester. I was a big fan of his signing, and he's a top player. Bissouma was quite consistent performer when we signed him from Brighton, and I know he hasn't been a consistent performer for us, but we know we have it in him to do it. And when he does play well for us, he can be one of our better players. Brennan. Yes, there are question marks about how good he is, but at the end of the day, he got 15 goal contributions last season. If he can match that or better that this season, that's all we need from him, to be honest, because that's quite a lot of goal contributions coming from the right wing. So we don't need him to be the best winger in the world. We just need him to be an effective winger, and that's what he can prove to be. So I think there's still a lot to be positive about. And yes, there are question marks. So I'm sure every team has question marks about a lot of players. But we know for sure these are all very good players. And when we get the best out of them, they can more than be part of this team. They can be one of some of the stars of this team.
It depends what the aim is. You're talking about Brennan. We don't need him to be the best right wing in the world. We just need him to contribute in the goal contributions. And that might be right just for this season to get into the top 4 and just to get by this season. But is that going to be enough for the future of this football club? Like, we do need top players to be playing, not just to chip in with the goal contributions. We need them to be chipping in all facets of the game. And unfortunately, Brennan, for the most part, has only... and I'm not saying it's no mean feat. It's a big thing to do that, to get 15 goal contributions in your first season. But we need him to be contributing a lot more than just these goal contributions. We need him to be impacting the game.
All right, but he's a young winger. I think the first step is, being effective, being able to contribute from goals and assists. That's the bread and butter for all wingers, for all forward players. That's what you get judged on. So as long as if he's doing it as yes, overall we want him to do more, but. If he was being amazing in general play and getting 2 goals, everyone would be going crazy. You know what I mean? No one would be saying, "Oh yeah, but he's doing this." No one would say that. So, well, how many goals and assists he got? That's what they'll be saying. So the fact is, that's the most important thing is he's getting that, and that's him showing how he can contribute over a season, how he can be effective, is he can get goal contributions, and then yes. We need him to do more from an overall game. And he's still a young player, he's still 22. That can develop, that can come. Or maybe he's 23 now, but that can come with time. He still need to develop in this role. But all I'm saying is if he can better his goal contribution tally of last season, that's all he needs to do to be a valuable member of this team, valuable member of this squad. And that's fantastic. Maybe Odebear can chip in with a few goal contributions as well. You still got Son there. You got Solanke and Richarlison, who can both know. We both know. We know that both of them can get goals in the Premier League. We know that for sure. So obviously, Son is Son. Obviously, Werner is a question mark, but we also know that on that left wing, in certain games he can be effective. Not all games, but there are going to be games where he can make a difference. So I think there's a lot to be excited about when it comes to the first team in the front line, and in terms of the first team squad, the first 11, which we were discussing, why it didn't need major surgery potentially, and why it's more important to get major surgery from the squad rather than the first team.
Yeah, I just feel like we needed a bit of both, to be honest. I think the Monster 6 was massive for us to take us really onto the next level, because we've improved the squad, but I don't think that we've put ourselves in a position for this season to take us onto the next level.
Well, the next level was getting into the top 4.
Well, we were kind of like around the top 4. When I talk about next level, I talk about competing for something different. We were competing for the top 4 last year. Yeah, we missed out in the last couple of games of the season, but I'm talking about the real next level here. Top 3, top 2, top 1. That's the real next level. But you just
said, we have to expect not to be in a title race.
Yeah, because of the business that we've done and because of where we're at right now. That's where we're at.
Was the goal this season to be in a title race?
If you believe what Ange says, then yes.
Yeah, Ange has got so much self-belief. I think he's always going to believe we're in a title race until we're out of it.
I think where we're at right now, with the players that we have, and maybe in terms of how we've progressed tactically, that this is where we should expect to be as a top 4 race. But that's not taking us to the next level.
Well, if we can get top 4 in a trophy, that is, isn't it?
A trophy, yeah. If we can get a trophy
are we not in a position to win a trophy?
I mean, we're always in a position to win a trophy. Are we? Yeah, I mean, last season we could have given a bigger fist to the Carabao Cup. You look at the way the Carabao Cup went last year, there's no reason why if we beat Fulham we couldn't have gone really deep into that and beaten a Liverpool youth side in the final or beaten that Chelsea side last season. There's no reason why we couldn't have done that last year. Of course we were in a position to win a trophy last year. We just didn't do it.
What about Europa League?
Yeah, there's no reason why we can't go deep into that tournament and win it as well.
Right.
But I feel like with the squad that we had last season, we probably could have done that too.
I don't know.
If the Europa League in this current format, with the teams that are in it right now, why not? We could have done that.
I don't know, because I don't think we have the squad to do it. And I think the problem last season is we had too many players who weren't right for Ange, for what Ange wanted to do, for what Ange wanted. Now it's different. Now we have a lot more. The technical ability of the squad has risen a lot, in my opinion. Overall, there's a lot less technically limited players in the squad now. Only really Davis there is really technically limited. You can maybe even argue Dragoshin, but he's a new signing. I'm going to give him time. Who else is technically limited now? I think a lot of players in this squad. Most players in this squad have a much higher technical level. Maybe Werner is not that great technically, but last season there was a lot more players who were limited. So I think last season, if we were to go on a deep run in Europa League, I don't think we would have made it, because I think we would have been using too many of these players who wouldn't have been used to it. Whereas this season, I think we're in a much better position.
We're in a much better position, but what we're going for and what we're challenging is not too different from last season.
No, last season we wanted to get in the top four, and we weren't in Europe. And this season, we didn't make it, obviously. And this season, I guess we want to be in top four. Yeah, but you say that. Last season, a lot of fans, beginning of the season, yes, we aimed for top four, but a lot of people predicted 5th and 6th, which is what we got.
But we were very close to getting top 4.
Everyone was saying, yeah, we were, but everyone was saying before the season, if we get top 6, that should be the aim after getting 8th. So this season, I think now the minimum requirement is top 4. I think if we finish outside the top 4, we'll be a major disappointment compared to last season.
I don't know if we can ever get past being top 4 challengers until we bring in one of those massive. I don't know who it could be, but until we bring in a proper monster 6, I don't think we can get past being top 4 challengers.
Johnny Cardozo.
Yeah, I mean, I never heard of him before this deal came around, so I'm not exactly the best to talk about him, but I do believe that.
You might be right, but then also maybe Basuma becomes a lot more consistent. You never know. Maybe a flip switches with him. Maybe Bentancur could become the answer. We know what a good player he is. Maybe he can do that role. Like, yes, on the face of it, I think we all want a Rodri or Rice. I think every team in the world would want a Rodri and a Rice. But also you've got to remember what we have in the squad. And I think people are too ready to cast aside the likes of Basuma and Bentancur when they're such high level players. Like there's no I would want £100 million signing in that position. If it was up to me, I would do it. But first of all, those players are extremely hard to come by. It's probably one of the hardest positions to get in right now, which is why Liverpool didn't even sign anyone after Zubimendi was called off, because they're just that the market for it is really, really difficult to find. There's not too many players out there which are guaranteed. Like, how many players that we could we find who are guaranteed? Well, we're saying 100%. There's no doubt about it. They're going to be better than Basuma and Bentancur. Like, there's not many out there. You've got to remember, these are very good players, very good central midfielders who would get into a lot of teams in the Premier League. So there are very few players who you could sit here and say, that player, if we sign him, he's definitely better than Bentancur 100%. Like, there's not too many of them out there. So to go move forward in the season with them, I don't think like that big of an issue potentially. It could be, but we'll have to wait. But also could it? Also, they could also potentially do the job as well. Like, there's also a chance. Since
joining Spurs, Yves Bissouma, what evidence can we go on to say that he is the top guy to take us forward on a consistent basis?
When he's played on top of his game.
But he's had a lot more. He's had more bad games than good games for Spurs.
You could definitely argue that, but we know first of all, we saw at his time at Brighton how he can be a consistent player, and we've seen at Spurs that he could also be a very good player for us. And if we can get him playing on top of his game consistently, then he can be a very good player for us, and he could be able to do a job. And also Bentancur, we saw him have a very consistent spells at Tottenham as well before his injury, and before his injury he was one of the most consistent midfielders in the league at that time. And unfortunately, it was a terrible injury, but he's now over a year past that injury now. Probably coming on 18 months. This is around the time players with that injury start getting back to their best, and maybe that's what we're going to start to see with Bentancur. And there's already been, slight evidence of it. I don't think we're fully there yet, but there's been little bits of evidence to suggest that he could be getting there. So he's already here. I thought when he played against Leicester, he played very well. Obviously, we didn't see him against Everton, concussion, and he came off the bench against Newcastle. But I think there's slight evidence that maybe he could do it. So Ange just probably looked at that, is it worth spending putting all our focus on that, or could we go ahead with Basuma and Bentancur and see if it's worth seeing if they can do the job? Is it that completely out of the realms of possibility they could do the job? Like, is it that so unlikely that it's like this massive thing that if we don't spend 100 million, we've completely failed? Like, that they can't do it? I don't see it that way.
I don't know. I just don't have the evidence to tell me that either of them can become a title challenging number 6. I just don't. There's just no evidence to suggest that.
Yeah, we're saying there's no evidence to suggest they could be as good as Rodri, essentially.
Yeah, and that's what we need.
No one's as good as Rodri.
But then how's anyone supposed to challenge?
That's a good question.
Like, you've got Declan Rice that has come in for 100 million.
And even he's moved out the 6.
Yeah, he has moved out the 6. But I mean,
because he's not good enough. He's not as good as Rodri.
It's not because he's not good enough. They just found him in a position where he contributes at both areas of the pitch. In the number 8, he's actually incredible. He's
very good in number 8. I'm not saying he's not good enough because he's a bad player. I'm just saying he wasn't as good in the number 6 as he was in the 8.
Yeah.
So they're playing, they've got Partey there, they've got Jorginho there. I'm just saying they've bought him because they thought he was going to be their answer to Rodri, and even he couldn't live up to what Rodri's capable of in that position. Like, Rodri gets the goal contributions from the number 6 that Rice gets from the 8, not even. So, like, Rodri's ridiculous standard, but that's the standard of the Premier League. But who are we going to find? We're not going to find anyone who's going to be as good as Rodri. I'm not
saying find someone on Rodri's level, but there's no way you can sit here and tell me that with what Basuma has shown in the Spurs shirt, there's no one that we can find that's going to be better than that.
For Basuma at his best, it would be very hard.
Yeah, but Basuma's not at his best. He hasn't been at his best since joining Tottenham.
He's been good this season, I think. He's
had one good game.
Yeah, that's what he's played.
Yeah, so
No, he played well against Newcastle, I thought.
Okay, fine.
And he had a good pre-season.
Two good games, fine. But that doesn't make up for all the bad performances that he's put in. He was terrible under Conte. He was terrible for the most part last season. And he's had a good start to this season.
I don't think he was terrible for the most part last. He wasn't. I don't agree with that.
He had a good first 10 games. And what else did he produce after that?
I thought 10 games, he was really good. Then had the sendings off, went off to the African Cup of Nations, had malaria, had a bit of a difficult time. But I actually think from about, even though Spurs were going through a fairly bad period, I actually thought from like the end of March time, beginning of April to the end of the season, I thought he played pretty well.
But there's a reason why you wanted a monster 6 to come in at the back end of last season as well.
Because of course I want a major improvement. I'm just saying, not getting one, like, is it this major thing there? There's no way that Bentancur or Basuma could ever be in a team that's competing. Like, is that completely beyond the realms of possibility? I just don't see it that way. I think that both of them at their best could potentially be solutions in that position. I'm obviously, as I said, if I had the choice, I'd upgrade on them. But if it's not readily available, like, is it that bad of a decision to go forward with them this season? Like, I don't see it that way. I don't see it as like this. I don't see it as this, like, there's no way that these midfielders could ever be the answer for us.
That's fine, but this has got to be last chance saloon for Basuma. This has got to be it. Well. This has got to be it, because if he doesn't perform this season, we can't keep carrying on moving forward with him. We can't, because if he doesn't perform this season, for me, that would be 3 bad seasons out of 3 since we've signed him. I know you're saying maybe in your mind he had a good season last year, but for me, it's not good enough. I think we need better. We need a lot better on a consistent basis as well. I think the Basuma form last year was just way too erratic. You just didn't know which Basuma was going to turn up each game.
And as I've said, we also got Bentancur as well. And why can't he? He used to be a 6 at Juventus. Like, he was very good. He's played 6 for Uruguay as well. I've seen him do that. So, we saw how good he was at the World Cup before and stuff like that. And we saw how good he was for Spurs. So, I mean, is it also beyond the realms of possibility he could also do the job? I mean, yes, we're waiting for him to get back to his best post-injury, but he's a very good player who can do a lot of good things in that position, in my opinion. So, like, my point is we've got 2 players there, 2 very good players there. And it's very difficult to find a midfielder who's better than those 2 players. So we'll see how they perform this season. I'm not saying they're going to take us to the top. I'm just saying these 2 players are very good players who, like, when I look at the team, I don't see it as like the biggest problem in the world going forward with these 2 players this season.
Well, we got no choice, do we? We are going forward with these players, and I still think I'm positive about this season. I think we can do good things this season. I'm liking the way we're playing. I really am. We just have a lot of things that we still need to iron out massively to make this a successful season. But I am liking the build-up of the squad. I just felt like we should have done a bit more in the summer. I do think we can get top 4. We can get a trophy behind our belt. We do have a super chat here from the Joracle, and he says, "You said it, Ben. We need 6 good chances per goals versus 1 good counter-attack per 1. We need to bring it down to 3 for 1 versus 2 for 1. Big up." And yeah, I don't disagree with that too much. That's definitely what we've seen this season.
If we're missing 6 good chances, and you're being wasteful like that, then you always it's always like that means you have to basically create 12 chances to win the game 2-1 for every goal you score. So obviously that's gonna be untenable. But I'm hoping that if we keep creating like we are, we're not going to be a 6 chance for every goal kind of team. I'm hoping anyway.
And here we've got a members chat from Ryan Isaacs, member for 28 months. Big up, you two, about to start work. Well, have a good day at work, my friend. Have a good day at work. But
Ryan,
look, back on the original question, are Spurs progressing under Ange? I do think the answer is yes. The answer is yes, because you look at the style of play, you look at how we've implemented it this season compared to last season. You have seen progression, in my opinion. You just haven't seen progression in the results just yet. But I hate bringing it back to this, and we always do bring it back to this. But you know, the journey that Arsenal have been on since signing Mikel Arteta. And I remember in the second season, in the third season, a lot of Arsenal fans were being like, "This guy is clueless. He doesn't know how to set up a team. There's clear flaws there. The decisions that he's making is absolutely ludicrous." And now look at them now. So I think we need to stick with the project.
trust the process.
Trust the process, as they said.
Or stick with the project. I prefer that one. Get our own catchphrase.
Stick with the project.
Stick with the project. Yeah, I agree. And I think the most successful teams right now are teams who have stuck with their manager over a sustained period of time, and teams who play on the front foot and play very attacking football and play high risk, high reward football with a structure, with a recruitment structure geared towards that, with a structure of trust between the manager and the board and recruitment, and managers who've been given time. And that's what I've seen has been successful over the last 10 seasons or so in the Premier League. And that's the path we've got to go on. And yes, we're a year in, so people, when it doesn't start instantly, getting us right to the very top and challenging for titles, people start to get a bit frustrated and annoyed, because it does take a bit of patience. But I'm willing to go through that. And as along the way, we're going to be playing great football. We're going to be playing entertaining, attacking football. And hopefully, by the end of this whole process or project, there will be some glory and some silverware at the end of it. But it's going to take a bit of time to really get to a stage where we're competing probably the top two. And probably unlikely to happen this season. But if we keep just building the squad the way in this image, in the way that we are, and playing the way that we are at the moment, which is not conceding many chances and dominating the opposition, penning them in and creating lots of chances ourselves, then that's going to be a recipe for success, in my opinion. And I know people take screenshots and look at this is suicide, look at this, we're never going to be successful with these kind of tactics, blah blah blah. Look, they might be right, but I'm willing to back it, and I'm willing to enjoy it on the journey. And I really do believe if we keep playing the way we are, eventually the results will be there. And I believe probably sooner rather than later, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I guarantee you the narrative will completely flip and completely change when we do Arsenal in next weekend. So all it takes is 3 points in a North London derby, and people's minds can change massively. And I actually think we've got a good chance next weekend against Arsenal. Well,
if we can bloody not concede from set pieces, then maybe we've got a chance, especially if last year's game's got anything to go by. Because I know that game gets lumped into our bad end of the season, but I thought we actually played really well in that game.
The Arsenal game.
Yeah. We were well on top, and then we conceded an own goal from Højbjerg. We were then well on top again, and then should have had a penalty, and then conceded the second goal off the back of that. And then then we could see the third from another set piece, which obviously happened, but which obviously goes into our play, but it wasn't like we were being outplayed. And then second half we rallied, got 2 goals back, and wasn't enough. But I actually think that was one of our better performances at the back end of last season.
Yeah, I would agree, but it falls into a similar narrative of the start of this season. I know maybe not conceding the set pieces, but playing well, conceding chances when we're on top, and not winning the game, not even drawing the game. So there are similarities there to the start of this season and that game in particular. But that's what we need to rub off. We need to start putting away our chances, and we need to stop giving away such high-quality chances.
Look, the reality is you're playing such high-risk football, you have to put away your chances because it's high risk for a reason. The risk you're playing is we're going to create a lot more chances than you, and we're going to put them away, and we're going to win the game 3-1 or something. And that's the high risk to high reward, and that's the risk. Now, the risk is if you if you create all these chances and you miss them all, the risk is that because you're so open, you're going to concede chances. That will happen, and they might take 1 or 2. And if you don't score the chances you're creating, then you're not going to get the result. That's the high risk to high reward. But I think that I'm willing to play that risk because I think it's more exciting, and I think actually it's going to be more chance of us winning than playing like we did in previous years under Conte and Mourinho, where we tried to stifle the opposition, yet barely create a chance ourselves and rely on ourselves being clinical.
Yeah. So and that we were with Harry Kane.
Yeah, and without Harry Kane. So that's what I'm. As much as I think it is very risky the way we play, and we will get unstuck sometimes. I do bank on the fact that more often than not we won't, and we will, especially if we can get enough quality in the front line, which I do believe there's quality there. We'll win games. We're going to win a lot of games of football, and it's going to stand us in good stead. I really do believe that.
Yeah, well, look, I think that is it from us today. I want to know your opinions in the comments section below. Are Spurs progressing under Big Ange? Are you seeing those signs of progression this season in the 3 games that we have played? I want to know your opinions in the comment section below. But it's good to be back, people. Big up to each and every one of you that came and joined us on this stream today. We'll be back for plenty of more over the next couple of weeks with after this international break has gone. The games are really coming thick and fast. I think it's 2 games a week for a good number of weeks, coming with the Europa League coming back, the EFL Cup coming back as well. So you know where to catch the action. It is here on We Are Tottenham TV. Big up to all of you. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always,